What's up, everybody? It's HBT with the Straight Up Wrestling Show, man. Coming to you guys, coming to you late night. And hey, if you come on here live, I definitely appreciate it. But hey, a lot of you guys are going to get to check this thing out a little bit later. Hey, it's 1:05 at night, 1:05 a.m. Well, 1:05 a.m. in the morning time when it boils down to it here on the East Coast. Man, I am in South Carolina, and I'm about to rock it out. I'm about to tell you about some wrestlers, man, that pretty much rumbled the apple cart. Put it that way. They overturned it for a little while for me back in the 70s when I was growing up, when I was watching wrestling. There was a wrestler who became my favorite, and a lot of people do know who's my favorite because I mention him a good bit. Sometimes I don't, but my favorite wrestler back in the 1970s were Nature Boy Ric Flair. 1974 was the first time I saw him in a tag team with Rip Hawk in Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling, and then I saw him in 1975 as a solo wrestler who came back. He came back from a plane crash and became the Nature Boy Ric Flair. A totally different gimmick than what he was used to being when he was first there. Now, when he was there in 1974, he was teaming with Rip Hawk. Rip Hawk had a lot of fashion sense. This man used to wear a lot of suits and things like that, even though he was smoking cigars. He was wearing suits. He was the epitome of cool. And Ric Flair was his tag team partner, a young Ric Flair, 1974. And Ric Flair was, a little goofy or whatever, trying to get that coolness down. And you saw it in him. He was trying to do it, but he was a much bigger guy than what he ended up being in 1975 after he came back from that plane crash. He actually, the plane crash crushed his vertebrae. So instead of being 6'2", he ended up being like 6.5 feet, a little bit over 6 feet tall. And he dropped a lot of weight. He was 300 pounds, like 310, 320. He was a power lifter. He was a power lifter before the plane crash. Used to hang out with Ken Patera and people like that. But he was Rip Hawk's tag team partner, and they were a great tag team. Held the Mid-Atlantic Tag Team Championships. I definitely liked Rip Hawk and Ric Flair as a tag team. But Ric Flair came back, and Ric Flair started using the Nature Boy gimmick. And man, you talking about something that was incredible. This guy I thought was incredible. Added that woo to his repertoire. He was on fire. He was on fire as a solo wrestler, and I saw so many great things from him in 1975. He started teaming up with Blackjack Mulligan, got into a feud with Tiger Conway Jr., a young black wrestler, man. They both was the same age, and Tiger Conway Jr., the son of a legendary black wrestler named Tiger Conway, and Tiger Conway Jr. and Ric Flair had these dynamic matchups against each other, man. It was outstanding. So I really feel for Ric Flair. Ric Flair biggest feud in 1975 when he came back. He targeted Chief Wahoo McDaniel, who had basically lost his chief rival. He lost his chief rival in that plane crash. Chief Wahoo McDaniel, chief rival at that time before the plane crash was Johnny Valentine. Johnny Valentine, Greg Valentine's Valentine daddy. Now, if you haven't heard of Johnny Valentine, or if you know about him, but you really never seen him wrestle, think of Gunther. Think of Gunther today. Johnny Valentine was the old modern, old, I ain't gonna say modern. He was the old school Gunther. Gunther is a throwback to Johnny Valentine. They wrestled the same way. Both the intensity was the same way, and Johnny Valentine was a big man, just like Gunther. But man, they are very similar. They are very similar with each other, Johnny Valentine and Gunther, man. And if you haven't seen Johnny Valentine, go back and some of the archives, look at some YouTube videos or whatever. You may be able to bring up some things about Johnny Valentine. A great wrestler, man. No ins, ands, or buts about it. And him and Chief Wahoo McDaniel had some incredible matches. But back to Nature Boy Ric Flair. Nature Boy Ric Flair, like I said, was my favorite wrestler. And in 1976, there was a guy who came on the scene. Man, I was just big time crazy about Ric Flair. Nobody could be better than Ric Flair, man. Ric Flair was just it. And when I'm talking about Flair, he had all the flair, the style, the class. he had it all, man. This guy had it down packed. And man, you talking about upsetting the apple cart or whatever, just pretty much realigning the stars, just put it that way. Came in and just dumped that apple truck, man. This guy came in. His name is Ricky Steamboat. He was called Rick Steamboat back then, and sometimes they called him Ricky Steamboat. But he came into the Mid-Atlantic Championship area, and I think the first match was against Ric Flair. I'm not sure. I'm trying to think of that, but I think the first match was against Ric Flair. He defeated Ric Flair on national TV, man, on syndicated TV, which that's what we had back then. But he defeated Ric Flair, and it was crazy, man. It just blew everybody's mind because Ric Flair was one of these young stars, man. That was he was the young GOAT. He was the guy you could tell even at that time that he was going to be probably the greatest wrestler that ever lived, or one of them, if nothing happened to him or whatever. He had it all, outside of the style and the dress and everything that he had, and the great charisma and the great promos. This guy, he had great ring psychology. He was a great technical wrestler. He can brawl with the best of them, but this guy can absolutely do it either way, any kind of way that you wanted him to do it, and was great at selling. I mean, this guy he was all it, man. He was what you wanted to see in a professional wrestler. So man, the Crockett's, Jim Crockett, David Crockett, all those guys who had Nature Boy Ric Flair, big ups to them, because they let his star shine straight up. But yeah, so Ricky Steamboat came in. Ricky Steamboat came in, beat Ric Flair on national TV. I think it was his first match there. But right after that, Ric Flair went and he started cutting promos. He was just going crazy because he said, "This guy's coming in. This kid is good looking and everything. Man, now he's taking my women." Now he was saying that the next week in his promos. He was out there talking in promos. He was talking to David Crockett, and I think it was Bob Caudle, and he was telling them, this guy, who in the heck is this Ricky Steamboat? So Ric Flair just basically went crazy, man, and did everything he could to mess up Ricky Steamboat by taking, one week, I think the third or fourth week that he was there, he grabbed Ric Flair. I mean, he attacked Ricky Steamboat. Ric Flair attacked Ricky Steamboat, took his face and pretty much smeared it all over the concrete floor, and Ricky Steamboat had this big old red, lining all the way on his jaw. His jaw was stuck out and everything. He just pretty much was messing him up, man. Did everything he could to mess him up. But Ricky Steamboat and Ric Flair started going at it, had some great matches. And Ric Flair, whatever championship he got, Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling, I mean, he had the Mid-Atlantic Heavyweight Championship. Ricky Steamboat took that away from him. And then Ric Flair went on and won the United States Heavyweight Championship. Ricky Steamboat took that away from him. So anything that Ric Flair was doing between 76 and 77, Ricky Steamboat will come back and he will top that. Only thing that he really couldn't do, he couldn't cut the same kind of promos that Ric Flair could cut, but he was so good and he was so popular with the fans that Ricky Steamboat did not have to cut those great promos. And the females loved him, man. Straight up, and the young people loved him. Old people loved him. Everybody loved him. What a great face this Ricky Steamboat was. And eventually, Ricky Steamboat became my favorite wrestler. He did. Ricky Steamboat became my favorite wrestler. Ric Flair was my number 2 wrestler. So, I'm looking at both of these guys, young guys. I'm like, man, they are great. And I like Tiger Conway Jr. He was 3rd. But Ric Flair was, he was my 2nd favorite wrestler after Ricky Steamboat came. But Ricky Steamboat, then come Ricky Steamboat, who had a challenge. It was a guy who came in from the AWA. I knew who he was when he got to Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling. His name was Jim Brunzell, Jumping Jim Brunzell. And he wasn't called Jumping Jim Brunzell at that time. But at that time, he was the most athletic that I've ever seen him. And that was back in the 70s. Robert Brown, Lafayette, Indiana in the building. What's happening, brother? What's up, Robert Brown? Robert Brown is in the house. Glad that you're in, Robert Brown. Glad to see you in here, man. But Jim Brunzell was just flipping incredible. Came from the AWA, the Midwest out there. And he came in. And Jim Brunzell, he was actually in that same graduating class. He was in that same class that Ricky Steamboat came out of, that Vern Gagne trained class, which was an outstanding group of wrestlers. I think Bob Backlund was in that too. I'm not sure. but I think Bob Backlund was in that, and I think Kim Patera was in that one too. But it was an incredible group of wrestlers that came out of that group. But Jim Brunzell was one of them who came out, and Jim Brunzell came in, and he came into the Mid-Atlantic Championship area. And here we go again. Now I'm looking at somebody like, no, please, nobody comes in and be better than my man Ricky Steamboat, or be better than Ric Flair. Please do not come in there and do that. But here we go again, man. Jumping Jim Brunzell came in. One of the first titles he got. He got the biggest title outside of the United States title that was there. But at Mid-Atlantic Heavyweight Championship, he won the Mid-Atlantic Heavyweight Championship, Jumping Jim Brunzell. But yeah, did I like Jumping Jim Brunzell? Jim Brunzell, I loved him, man. I got to the point where I started loving this guy. I remember he was in the AWA. He was Greg Gagne's partner, but I saw him there when he was in the AWA. I had went up to my cousin's house in Detroit. They used to watch AWA wrestling, and I got to see Jumping Jim Brunzell, hoping that he would never come down, because I'm like, this is a young guy, very talented guy, just as talented as Ricky Steamboat, as Ric Flair. He can come in and he can pretty much upset, he can upset the way things was run down in Mid-Atlantic. He can pretty much, like I said, he can change things around. But he came in, and this guy pretty much, he came down to Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling, and he showed out, guys. I got to give it to him. He showed out, and man, he became the new guy, and he became one of my favorite wrestlers. Was he my favorite at the time? No, he was not. But man, he came very close. So Jim Brunzell got me thinking, man. He really did. He got me thinking, and I'm just like, hey, anybody can come in. Anybody. So that was a threat to me. That was a threat to me, a young me who wanted to see Ricky Steamboat become a world heavyweight champion. Take out Terry Funk or take out Harley Race. A young me who wanted to see Ric Flair become a world heavyweight champion by beating Terry Funk or Jack Briscoe or whoever would have the world heavyweight championship. At that time, it was Terry Funk when Jim Brunzell was there in the Mid-Atlantic Championship area. But man, I tell you, it was just a lot of things that was going on, man. A lot of things that was going on that pretty much really got to me as a big time wrestling fan. But guys, give me just a moment here. I'm trying to get over here to YouTube. I got a few things I need to do real quick. Let's see while I'm streaming here. But yeah, stay in here with me. Definitely stay in here with me. So man, we can get to this last guy who came in. And look, Jim Brunzell became one of my favorites, just like Ricky Steamboat. I think it was between Jim Brunzell at that time. It was between Ricky Steamboat, Jim Brunzell, and we had another guy who I should have included on the little promo package or the little poster thing that I did here for YouTube and Facebook. It's another guy that was there. His name was Dino Bravo. Love these guys. Love that group of guys, man. Ricky Steamboat, Ric Flair. Let's see, Jim Brunzell, Dino Bravo. Those are my top 4 wrestlers, man. I got to the point where I loved each and every one of them. And I was hoping nobody else came in and pretty much turned my life upside down by being a better wrestler than those guys. Somebody that you go, when you see them, you go, and you just couldn't believe the talent they possessed. Next thing you know, there was a wrestler come in. His name was Dewey Robertson, guys. Dewey Robertson came into the Mid-Atlantic Championship area. When I first seen this guy, seen him wrestle, guys, I was flabbergasted. I really was. My mouth dropped wide open. He was kind of like Kim Patera. He wore a one piece. He wore a one piece. I'm talking about where the overalls kind of like, not just the wrestling trunks, but the same thing that Kim Patera wore. Kind of looked like Kim Patera too. Had this curly afro. But this guy, Dewey Robinson, man, he was incredible. I mean, he was just really incredible. And no nonsense, very technical, scientific wrestler, but he get in there and brawl. He can do anything that anybody in the wrestling business could do at the time. And I'm like, who in the world is this guy? I'm like, who is this guy? Man, he came into the business and he blew my mind. Dewey Robertson, man, Robertson. And Dewey Robertson, a little bit later on, became the missing link. I couldn't believe it, guys. I could not believe it. He became the missing link. And I thought people were joking around when he was telling me that back in the day when I was a teenager back in the 80s, that was Dewey Robertson. But man, I don't know if he had, I don't know what made him flip his lid. But yeah, he was running around, man, being the missing link, just flat out crazy. And, just beating the living daylights out of people, man, beating them to a pulp. And I'm like, why in the world is this dude doing this? Because he's such a great wrestler and everything. But, man, I was just like, hey, something's really went wrong in this guy's life for him to be doing this. But Dewey Robertson is the third guy who came in, and he pretty much changed everything. He changed everything for me. And, hey, I'm not going to front, man. I was really upset. Because I'm like, okay, Ric Flair, he's winning championships. Ricky Steamboat is winning championships. And my man, Jumping Jim Brunzell, had a championship. And I'm like, what if Dewey Robinson, because Dewey Robinson came in, his first match was against a bad guy, which we call Heels Today, using the secrets of pro wrestling. We call them Heels Today. But Dewey Robinson came in and be the bad guy. But then he went out and he was talking to David Crockett. He said it doesn't matter who he wrestles. He's just there to wrestle, and he want to wrestle anybody. Didn't matter if it was a face. Didn't matter if it was a heel. Dewey Robinson was ready to take on any and everybody. And this guy was pretty much scary, man. In my opinion, he scared me, guys, because, like I said, I didn't like people coming in and being a threat to my favorite wrestlers. So I'm like, hey, this guy is more skilled at that time because he had been wrestling for a long time. I didn't realize he was 40 years old, but he'd been wrestling for a long time. So, since like 1961. So I think he was like 18 years in the ring. So he had a lot of experience. And this guy was better at that time than Flair, Steamboat, and Dino Bravo. So he was a threat. He was a threat to those guys being the champions, man, or being champions. And I tell you what, I really didn't like that. I didn't like it at all. I'm just being straight up with you. But he upset the apple cart, guys. He pretty much had me a little worried there. And we know Ric Flair came out on top. So big ups to Rick. Ricky Steamboat came out with a brilliant career. Dino Bravo went over to WWE and did some great things. And the Missing Link went over to WWE and did some great things too. But he was on Georgia Championship Wrestling, WCW, back in the day. And, as Missing Link, man, he was just crazy. But didn't wrestle much after that as Dewey Robertson. Dewey Robertson. But, man, Dewey Robertson was a great wrestler, man. He really was a great wrestler. But, yeah, a lot of these people, like I said, these three that I have right there, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, goodness sake, Jumping Jim Brunzell, and Dewey Robertson. And the reason I have all three of those, pretty much, I'm presenting those guys to you. Those are the guys who was a challenge to my man Ric Flair, as Ric Flair ended up going up and becoming major. He was the United States champion. And I mean, that's when that belt really meant a lot. But these guys right here are the number one contenders. These are the guys that I worried about, man. I really did. So, wow. So I'm asking you guys a question. Let me ask you a question. Is there anybody out here in wrestling that pretty much upset you as they came into the territory that you was watching? Don't matter if it was WWE or WCW or a smaller promotion. And those guys came in. Did you feel threatened? Did you feel that it was a threat or it was something to knock out the person that you have been seeing for a long time? Was that a problem with you guys or not? Let me know in the comments straight up, man, because yeah, you just come in and you change things. One thing that I do believe in wrestling, you gradually change things. You do, because people are hard to change, man, when it boils down to it. But you gradually change things. You bring in new faces all the time. I mean, you bring in new faces every now and then, and new people in the business that people really gonna gravitate toward and gonna love, that's what you do. But there's so many promoters, so many people out here where I've seen I've seen guys, man, that pretty much rushed everything, didn't know how to treat women. I've seen it all. I've seen it all. But I'm definitely not going to get into that. But guys, like I said, I just wanted to come on for a little while, talk a little bit about that subject, man, about about the subject that I have here. Let me see. Let me see if I can pull it up and look and see exactly what I said, because I want to say it exactly right, so I won't be misquoted. So let me go and pull that up. See if I can pull that up here. Goodness sake, man, what's going on? What in the world's going on? But yeah, let me see if I can pull that thing up. Come on now. I'm gonna pull it up on my laptop and cannot get it done, guys. All right, so give me just a moment here, and I will pull up exactly what we're talking about here. I do know what it is, but I want to get it correct. I want to get it correct. I want to make sure that I say it exactly the right way. All right, man. This is okay. That was earlier. Earlier, me and Chris did a 3-year anniversary show. So definitely, if you haven't went and seen that, if you haven't saw the 3-year anniversary show, please go back and watch it, man. We had some great content in there. That was a very good show that Chris and myself did. So definitely go back and check out the Straight Up Wrestling show. In that long conversation that we had, nice conversation that we had during our 3rd-year anniversary. But right here, man, right here, guys that came in and outshined favors, and you didn't like it one bit. So guys that came in and outshined your favorites, and you didn't like it one bit. So I'm just asking you guys, was there anybody that came in and outshined your favorites and you guys just didn't like it? You just didn't like it. Hey, inquiring minds want to know. But yeah, I'm going with those 3 because those are the ones that came in. Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. Well, it was Ricky Steamboat at that time. Jim Brunzell, which became Jumping Jim Brunzell because this man could get up high. Still haven't seen anybody hit perfect drop kicks like that. Brad Armstrong comes close. And then we had, man. All right, then we had Dewey Robinson, guys. Mr. I could do it all. Mr. I've been in the business for a long time and became the missing link later on in his career. And if it wasn't for him being in the missing link, I don't know how much longer he could have stayed. But this guy was an incredible wrestler, man. He really was. He could have been Ric Flair before Ric Flair. And he did have a contract to win the WCW World Heavyweight Championship. Not the WCW World Heavyweight Championship, but the NWA World Heavyweight Championship. But something happened and it fell through. It really did. It straight up. But, man, I appreciate everybody coming in. Appreciate you guys rocking with the Straight Up Wrestling family tonight. Let me go over here. I need to do something real quick. Let's see. I definitely need to do something real quick, guys. So just give me a moment before I get off here. I need to go ahead and share this thing to our Facebook group, Facebook page. It's outrageous, man. Maybe it's already on my page here. Let me look and see if it's over here before I do anything. But yeah, StreamYard do not let you get over here and do much of anything. They really don't. They really don't. And you know what? It's hurting. It's hurting our page, man. It really is. Now my personal page does well, does very good, and that's just to be honest. That page does very well. All right, let me go ahead and share this thing over into the Straight Up Wrestling group. Let's see, there's a couple other places that are professional wrestling junkies. Let me send it there. But yeah, after all that, man, I am hot. I am tired. I am going to get off of here right now. Goodness sake, what did I just do? All right, guys, I am hot. I am tired. I'm about to get off of here. Sorry about that. I think I kind of lost you guys for just a minute. I was working with something on my phone, and I kind of put the iPad down, so maybe you guys wasn't on here. So I'm not sure that you got to hear exactly everything that I had said right there. But man, if you coming through, and you see this stream, hey, come check it out, man. I went ahead and did the stream like this, didn't want to pretty much come on camera because just in case you out there, bumping your ride, you're hanging with your girl or whatever, you don't want to be looking down at the camera. You just want to listen to what me and Chris have to say. So this is the reason that I did the whole podcast show like this. But man, hey, if you coming through Facebook, you never seen HBT or the People's Podcaster, hey, we advise you, man, go ahead and hit that like, share, join, hit that notification bell, ding, ding, ding. So you know when we're on here on YouTube, over on Facebook, like, share, join, man. And once again, I'm gonna go ahead and go with that YouTube, like, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell, man, ding, ding, ding. So you know when we're on like times like these. If you're on Twitch, you do the same thing that you do over here on YouTube. And if you're on X, guys, X, formerly known as Twitter, hit that like, share, tweet, and retweet. We appreciate everybody, man. We appreciate everybody coming in, rocking with the Straight Up Wrestling Show, and not just this moment in time here. I'm talking about all times since we've been doing this. Been doing it for 3 years, man, and you are the ones that the Straight Up Wrestling Show has grown. And man, we have definitely have a big time feeling for each and every one of you for helping us progress and get to that next level straight up. So, man, we are going to go ahead and sign off. I'm going to sign off, and I will talk to each and every one of you guys later. Stay straight up. Peace.